what's happening, everybody? Great to see you here. I am Pragmatic Addict, and this is going to be my review of Paws of Fury. So as you can see, Paws of Fury, I saw it tonight. It was the opening night, completely sold out showing. I was very lucky to catch a showing of this movie. Woo-wee. So yeah, Paws of Fury. I don't know how many people are going to be talking about this movie. There was actually like a handful of films spilled out over this weekend that I was like at least remotely interested in. Which, you know, yeah, you can't really ask me why I chose Paws of Fury. I mean, I guess it was just the originality of it all. But yeah, anyway, let's talk about Paws of Fury. So the movie opens with, obviously, the credits, which are just jam-packed with a bunch of logos for companies I've never heard of, seriously. But as for the movie itself, it actually has a pretty decent opening. It's got kind of this black and white, like, narrative animation piece, which you can kind of expect from like a kid's like martial arts movie. You know, it kind of goes into a little bit of the lore of this, you know, film, and it's got kind of like a catchy little, you know, tune as well. But immediately after this, we get pretty much to the T, just to the nails, what you would kind of expect out of this movie, which is a cheap and lousy kids film with, sadly, actually cheap looking animation, which we just got this intro that I'm like, wow, you know, it's got the lore in there, it's got some pretty tight animation with a little catchy tune. But now we get this animation that looks like something like ripped straight out of fucking Barnyard. Remember fucking Barnyard? With an intro that I wouldn't even call like basic or cheap, but just fucking lackluster. It contains every dumb, cringy joke that you would expect this kind of film to include. And as far as its pacing and even its story goes, it sounds, looks, and is even like voice acted to like something that you would expect to like wake up to at 6 a.m. on a Saturday morning. To like, you know, you wake up groggy-eyed and you just happen to have fucking Nickelodeon playing and you're like, this looks like shit. It feels, looks, and sounds like something that you would catch on Nickelodeon early in the morning on a Saturday this year. The movie just feels like how a sloppy kids show of today would play out. At least initially, to the point where there's no real plot points right away. It's just a shitload of these silly cartoon kids animals doing cliche, typical 2022 animal cartoon shit. So the plot is about a dog named Hank, played by Michael Cera, who arrives in a town called Cacumucho. I'm serious. That's what it's called. I'm not bullshitting you. And it's a town that is full of cats who hates dogs. And this dog is basically this outcast of a character who's this loser, this weak little stupid pup that no one expects to be the new samurai but is, and he basically has to prove himself worthy to this town and has to basically gain their respect. Now, while Michael Cera is a really strange actor to have front and center of this fucking movie, and while Michael Cera's character is very typical main character for a movie like this, I will say that the times I found fun in this movie were when Michael Cera was doing his little quips and his little fucking awkward humor that you would normally expect out of Michael Cera. And it's not even necessarily because of this character that Michael Cera is playing, it's just Michael Cera's charm that we have grown to expect, and, you know, that has made Michael Cera, you know, known. Now, something I do want to point out that I actually thought was fine was actually Samuel L. Jackson. He easily held this movie up for me and was not only the best part, but much like Michael Cera, it's just Sam Jackson being Sam Jackson. He's just his natural Sam Jackson self, even if he is, yes, you know, playing a fat cat in a Kung Fu Panda ripoff. And what I liked especially about his character is like, so there's moments in this movie where Sam Jackson does these, like his character does these like double entendres almost, where it sounds like he's very much saying something else.
What the mother father cocker spaniel's going on here?
But then you remember, oh yeah, this is a kid's movie. And then you remember, well, but this is also Sam Jackson in this kid's movie. Now, Michael Cera and Sam Jackson are actually the main characters, which thank fucking God. Because they're not only the most notable actors in the film or the most actually like give a shit about characters in the movie. But not only are they playing them actual selves pretty much, but that chemistry that you would, expect out of Michael Cera and Sam Jackson bonding together in this fucking movie, you do get that. Only thing is that, yes, they do tone it down to a most kid-friendly manner that they can, but also kind of push that in also an equally playful manner. Now, as for the other characters in this movie, yes, there are some notable actors and actresses like George Takei and Michelle Yeoh, but I wouldn't even call these other characters necessarily like supporting characters, but just background. Not even filler. This town that Michael Cera's character is trying to like gain the respect of and like show his worth to, it just feels like something, in the background. Like, it's just somewhere for the movie to have a setting, much like the rest of the characters. Now, I will say this though, not the actual village setting, but like the setting of the actual movie, the layout and like its location and everything. I would actually say that they captured that in a manner that's appropriate to what people would expect out of this setting and how it should be. And there's this quick scene during the movie where they're on like a bridge and you can see like the landscape and everything of the town. I actually thought that was not only the best animation in the movie, but I just thought as animation as well, just in general, it was very respectable and actually really beautiful. Now, touching a little bit more on the animation, like the earlier portion of the movie where you get that kind of like narrative intro, well, the film actually did surprise me throughout somewhat in the sense of it actually kind of cuts to these different like flashbacks that actually have like a variety of different animations. Like each of them were actually much better than the movie's like main animation itself. So yeah, while there are a lot of flaws in this movie, more than less, the ones that, did actually make the cut and hit, it made the movie just in those, little areas feel that much better and just even that much more cared about. Now let's go back to Sam Jackson and Michael Cera just for a little bit. I thought during the scenes, most notably like the ones where, like Sam Jackson plays this big fat cat named Jimbo, I think was his name, Jimbo. And he plays basically like this, old trainer, this sensei to Michael's character. I thought everything about those moments, their chemistry, even the humor and the dialogue, I actually thought was pretty, acceptable. I feel like if the movie was more like centered on these characters, which it was, but like I feel like Sam Jackson and Michael Cera and their characters as well, they did fine, but like they were just stuck in a stereotypical sloppy Nickelodeon shitty animated movie. And it was really sad, man. Also, something I really want to talk about very quickly is that the moments in this movie that should be more important or just more in general, Hank like bonding a relationship with his village and going against the bad guy, again, it didn't feel like necessarily like plot points. These things are addressed what this movie should have, beginning to end, just in the general gist of it. It does have these things, but they're never really front and center. The movie's main focus more so just seemed like this weak outcasted dog just trying to be somebody in this cat village. There was really no steady like character growth, I would say. I mean, yes, there are flaws and accomplishments made from this character throughout the movie, but they're never made front and center, which it just made this movie feel kind of awkward, where a lot of it just felt like filler, which was really sad. Now, getting to the humor, most notably like in the film's last act, it does this weird transition of humor where it just completely does its own thing. In a lot of ways, just really eyebrow-raising like manners, which some of the stuff does work, some of it doesn't, but for the most part, like the overall grand scheme of this, like the humor in this last act is just like, you could tell like the directors or whoever of the film were just like, they had this whole like board of these jokes and these quips and one-liners and humor, different varieties and blends of it that they wanted to throw in the movie but weren't sure if they should or would make the cut, and then they were just kind of like, fuck it, was like 15 minutes, let's just do it. And while I do think that this portion of the movie is the most out there portion of it, there is a lot of humor, there's a big variety of it. The film does kind of go into this different sort of like a direction, regardless of how much some of it doesn't work, which, yes, some of it does. But it was just different. And again, like, as a closing act, we are obviously getting to the final conclusion, how everything wraps up. I do think that as far as storytelling goes, this does include some of the best of it. So while it is the most jumbled and kind of janky and just, out there, fuck it. There's a lot of humor that doesn't work. There's a lot of fourth wall jokes about the movie's runtime. And there's a lot of references to other movies. So there's a lot of cringy out there, different kind of like variety of humor. Again, some of it works and doesn't. I do think that as an overall closer, it is the best part of the movie, which is obviously super important. Overall, I'm going to give Paws of Fury a 2.2 to a 2.3 out of 10. Yeah, again, guys, I really don't know why I saw this movie. Again, it's not a train wreck, but it is one of those movies that before you see it, you're like, why am I seeing this? And when you leave the theater, you're going to think, why did I see this? Yes, guys, that is going to do it for my review on Paws of Fury. Tomorrow, I will actually be seeing Gone in the Night in the theater, which I'm not going to say I'm excited about, but I am curious about. I'm hearing some mixed things about it, but it is an interesting film. It's got John Gallagher Jr. as well as Winona Ryder, which I think that this is more of a horror film than anything. We will see, but I'm seeing it in the theater. It's got Winona Ryder and John Gallagher Jr. Yeah, again, there's a lot of movies coming out this weekend, and I don't know how many I'm going to get to, but hey, we got Paws of Fury done. We just said, alright, let's just get this one over with. But yes, guys, that is going to do it for this review. Let me know what you thought about the movie if you did see it, which, again, by this image here, whew, I hope you guys get some tickets because they're selling fast. But yes, guys, let me know what you thought about the video down below, and thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in the review for Gone in the Night tomorrow, and yeah, I hope you guys are having a great night. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one.